Hello and welcome to the India Hangout Concepts. We're going to ask a question about the ban today. We're talking about the meat ban in specific. Now, Mumbai has a 4-day meat ban. It has been implemented on September 10th or will be on 13th, 17th and 18th. The question we are asking are, first of all, whose ban is this? Secondly, does this ban reflect a genuine concern or is it a political statement? Finally, do bans like this create political disharmony or disharmony in general? And more importantly, should people have a say in what is banned or not, because clearly some parts of the community are affected. We are coming in Mumbai, where we are on the heels of another ban on beef which happened about 4 months ago, and this of course is another one. Now, bans of course have been there earlier as well, but this comes at a time when we are seeing a progression of bans of various kinds, ranging from movies, documentaries, books and of course Maggie. So this is the context that we are asking the question today. I'm joined by Sanjay Jha, spokesperson of the Congress, Ejaz Ilmi, leader of the BJP, and Ira Trivedi, columnist and novelist. Thank you all for joining us. Sanjay, let me begin with you. Now, this is not the first time that a ban of this nature has been put forth. There was a similar ban, as I understand, in '94, but may not have been implemented in the way perhaps it is likely to be implemented today. So why is this happening?
Frankly, Govind, I think these are very alarming and disturbing developments. And I personally feel, what you're seeing in India right now is the emergence of a larger Hindutva ecosystem. The very fact that you recently had the RSS completely dominating the BJP enclave, where even the Prime Minister had to go and make a presentation, I think tells you of the fact that there is a very significant, and it's a very, the shift is, manifested in a very, very transparent sense. That there is no longer any secrecy or any kind of doubt as to the fact that currently India is being dictated by the RSS ideology. Take an example. I mean, the issue of the beef ban, for example, itself was controversial because it came suddenly when you had a change in government. And along with the decision on madrasas, and the fact that despite a court verdict, the reservations, jobs, etc., Muslims were not kind of encouraged by this government. I mean, you got to look at it from a larger perspective. Now, today you are having a ban not just on beef, which anyway, where despite India being the largest beef exporter, etc., I'm not going to get into that detail. But the fact that you're having today no meat for 4 days, because there is a festival of another community, it clearly tells you that yes, there is a clear political complexion. Number two, if the community in the past did not have any problems with it, why does it suddenly become an explosive social subject that requires a certain kind of a prescription on meat consumption? And the third factor is that yes, there is definitely an attempt here to further play politics by trying to, kind of make it appear that this government is, anti those who are, from a certain community that are perhaps known to consume meat as part of their regular diet. The irony, though, Govind, and I will leave it at this point before my friend Ejaz and others can come in, is that 70% of Indians in a normal course are non-vegetarians, if not 75%. So what are we really trying to do other than score some extremely cheap political points?
Okay, right. So, Ira, let me come to you on this. Now, I mean, this is really the point that Sanjay just alluded to, but a large proportion of people who are affected by such bans are also non-Muslims. So, why should this be seen, or should it be seen as necessarily targeting one community, but more likely a class of people who obviously in this case consume non-vegetarian meat food, as it were?
Carry on here.
Okay, I do think that, Mr. Jha's brought in one interesting perspective, but I think it's a little bit more than just Hindutva. I think that we have a larger issue at hand here. I do think that the government is maybe pandering to certain communities. That I think is absolutely true. But I think it's a larger attitude whether it's Hindu or Muslim, of clamping down, of banning, which I find is not at all good for a country like India. And absolutely, there are large pockets of Hindus that are non-vegetarian as well. For me, what's most worrisome about this, rather than a religious issue, rather than a political issue, is the fact that, and the biggest disaster is a health and nutrition disaster. Meat is the cheapest source of protein. So when the beef ban happened, I said the same thing, that beef is a very, very cheap source of protein in India. And in a country where a significant percentage of children are below the adequate, the nutrition levels prescribed by the United Nations, it is really a pity that we are banning one of our chief sources of protein. So, and the same goes with meat. For many, many, many communities, Muslim and Hindu, meat constitutes an important protein component, and by banning it outright, we are taking away nutrition value for children, number one, and number two, jobs. There's large communities of people involved in meat and the meat trade, and they're not necessarily always Muslim. And I think when the beef ban came out, my numbers showed me there was something like 30,000 people in the state of Maharashtra involved in the trade. And for these people, taking away their livelihood, their profession, that's what's really bothering about it. So I'm not looking at it from a political point of view, but I'm looking at it as a larger point of view, as why should India take any stand like this at all? When you've got much, we've got issues of malnutrition, issues of employment. Our government is talking about Make in India. Our Prime Minister is talking about making India an independent nation. Sort of standing on its own feet with other developed nations of the world. But how is this possible when we're taking these backward steps that are affecting literally millions of people, and especially millions of children?
Right. So, fair point, Ira. So, Ejaz, let me come to you. So, to pick up on two themes that Ira talked about, one is, of course, economic, and the second is health. I.e. The protein supplement in meat for those who consume it, as opposed to those who don't. Now, be that as it may, the other concern, of course, is that, what is the government really doing? We, at the end of the day, all we can remember over, let's say, the last 4 months or 5 months is a series of bans, is a series of clampdowns, crackdowns, and so on, without anything productive really happening, and in keeping with the government's own promises of doing something much greater, like Make in India, as Ira talked about, or it could be bringing some attention and doing something about the economy, which is slowing down, and the markets which are falling, and so many things to do.
Okay, I will address Sanjay's issue in a political fashion, and Ira's issue on the economics and the protein issue, because being a doctor, I think I'm competent to answer both my friend Sanjay and Iraji also. On the political front, from 2004, the Congress government gave a government notification which already existed in the BMC as far as abstaining from meat was concerned for 3 or 4 days on these important days when the Jain celebrated the festival in a particular area of Bombay. Secondly, the BJP is not interested in actually running anybody's lifestyles, as Sanjay wants me to believe, or was thinking that we want to run anybody's lifestyle as to what you should eat and what you should not eat. Secondly, on the issue of beef, there were major misgivings and major misconceptions. A large section of the Muslim community for years immemorial have been in favor of not slaughtering cows in sensitivity to our Hindu brethren. Secondly, if you don't want to have cow beef, there is always buffalo beef, which is exported in large numbers, $6 billion. In fact, the largest exporters of carrot beef, which is water buffalo beef, and nobody's stopping you from that. Thirdly, as far as the issue of RSS was concerned, yes, the Prime Minister and other ministers went for an interaction, spoke about policies and interacted, but the fact is the government does its own thing, belongs to its own thing. The mandate it has to govern India is, it's not only a mandate, it's a responsibility which needs to be done. Secondly, if you think in the last 4 or 5 years, nothing has happened in Maharashtra, the largest investment by Foxconn has also happened in the state of Maharashtra. If all of you did
You know,
not read the
Ijaz,
papers.
I'm not sort of necessarily, saying that, okay, investments will stop because there is a beef ban on. I think what we're talking about is people's right to livelihood, people's right to consume what they want, particularly the protein that they want, and people's right to live the life that they want, as they have been all these years. I think that's really the fundamental question here, isn't it?
And also, I just want to bring in the point of people's livelihoods. Banning meat. There's restaurants in a city like Mumbai. There's a lot of restaurants and a lot of restaurantade because people are, it's not a village or a smaller city where people are generally cooking at home. So there's the restaurant business is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And so we're creating a dent in that. We're creating a dent in the people who are actually supplying meat, and for someone's entire business is shut down for a period of 4 days is a very, very big deal. So I just feel like, to promote a democratic and open-minded, forward-thinking India, we do need to have, freedom for everyone, and that's always been India's ethos. So it's very disappointing to see these sort of bans that were, instituted 10 years ago to come back in 2015. The Jains have a festival going on. They can observe it in their homes, just like the Muslims observe festivals in their home, just like other religious communities, like the Parsis observe festivals in their home. And that's always been India. That's the definition of India, is that we all live together in a harmonious community, many different religions and ethnicities. So that's what's really disturbing about this, is that I feel like these sort of bans really attack the idea of India and the ethos and the fabric of what this country is built on.
Ijaz, do you want to come back on that, Ijaz? I think, it's really saying the same thing, that, we really have a core set of values which allows us to practice what we want. It allows us to, eat what we want, read what we want, watch what we want, and many of those things are under some kind of strain today because the government is suddenly involved and is doing things or acting in a way which impinges my free speech or my free existence.
No, my question is that the meat ban, which happens for 3 or 4 days during this particular period, has always been there as far as the BMC rules say, and which was notified by the government in 2004, which is definitely not our government. The reality is,
India has changed a lot in 11 years, and I don't think that a modern.
Yes, what I'm trying to say is that there was. I'm not justifying that there should be a meat ban. I'm saying it's always existed. It's in deference to sensibilities of our Jain brethren. If they are wanting something, if they're celebrating a festival, it was always there in parts of Mumbai. This ban was always there, notified by the government and the BMC. So I'm saying, why is the issue today?
Right. Just one moment, Ijaz. Sanjay, let me come to you. While we are seeing, bans like the one we've talked about today, but have we somehow in the past, created the environment wherein, we try and, focus on the interests of the few and then go all out to appease them, and therefore, that kind of accelerates into actions which finally end up affecting the larger lot. And to that extent, perhaps this ban on the sale of meat is not new, or the slaughter and sale of meat is not new.
Govind, I will agree with you on that. And, I will just disagree with you on one point, because, end of day, this is for 4 or 5 religious days. So this is not the larger context of the meat ban, where the issue of protein consumption may come in. 4 or 5 days really doesn't make much of a difference on protein consumption. But therefore, this is actually got a political context. That's the point I'm making. It is a political context because it is an attempt to try and make another community appear a little more special by targeting a certain minority community that is associated with meat consumption on a more regular basis. I'll also correct Ijaz here. Ijaz, let me tell you, I live here in Mumbai. These decisions are taken by the BMC. I'm not aware of any state government order at all. The BMC is run by the BJP and Shiv Sena for the last 15 years, which includes the time that you are talking about. Now, there may be, some circular here and there, but end of the day, let's talk about the current environment. Ever since Devendra Fadnavis is coming, and he's an ex-RSS man, how can we ignore that reality? And just don't forget that it was Narendra Modi during the Lok Sabha campaign brought out the term pink revolution, and the pink revolution was used in a campaign when he was addressing a certain agrarian community, and it was an attempt to clearly polarize society. I think Govind, the larger context for India is disturbing. It's disturbing because what you're doing here is taking away a fundamental right of living your life the way you should. I think it's a prescription on your individual liberty.
Yes.
I think Ira's point here is not, you see, when you tell me what I can eat and not eat, what I can speak and not speak, I mean, there are alarming developments for a state like Mumbai, and Ira is right. Mumbai is India's New York. It's a cosmopolitan, liberal, dynamic. It's got a nightlife. It's a place where we say is the true melting pot. It's not
Yes,
a sanity.
it's India's
melting pot.
cosmopolitan capital.
That it's okay if we have similar bans elsewhere, but not in Mumbai.
And therefore my last point here, Govind, very humbly, that I think the if you read the few days ago the Maharashtra government circular that says that you can't say something, it will be deemed seditious, or the one that came before that, where I don't think Ajaz should even try and defend that, where the Devendra Fadnavis government has said that if you try and you can't even file a case against a bureaucrat or a politician in Maharashtra unless you take the permission of the government. I mean, how absolutely ludicrous can we be? So I think you are seeing a very extreme form of political conduct, and I'm hoping that Ajaz, who's a more reasonable spokesperson for the BJP, will condemn it and will definitely not support it.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, Ira, you were saying something.
Yeah,
I was just agreeing with everything Sanjay has to say. I was just telling, I think the point that he made about Maharashtra, particularly Mumbai, being the cosmopolitan capital of India, and really, the city is known for its diversity, for people all over the country, maybe even the world coming and living together harmoniously, and that's really the fundamental of what Bombay is. And to see such a ban executed in a city like Mumbai, I feel is really, really disappointing. So I just wanted to say I agree with the point that in India's most cosmopolitan, perhaps most forward-thinking, perhaps most diverse, and definitely most populated city in the country, for such a thing to be executed, especially when there's so much poverty. You drive to the streets of Bombay and there's children sleeping on both sides, clearly, with lots of health problems, and people don't have enough food to eat. To take away their fundamental right of choice and also of health is extremely disappointing. And I don't think that is what our country, our government, our constitution stands for.
Right. So, okay, let's ask the next question and the last one as well. So, should the people have a say in bans? I come back to the original point. By addressing the needs or the concerns of one part of the population, you're in some ways, doing a disservice to the rest. And perhaps this is a trend that has existed in the past, but has clearly accelerated in recent times, and we are seeing today. So, should the people have a say in bans? Ijaz, you were saying something, and can I come back to you?
Yes. As far as people are concerned, I believe you form governments formed by the people, and they are formed for the people. By and large, you have diversity of opinion and multiplicity of opinion in various people and various communities. But on this particular meat ban, it's something that has been continuing for a long time. And I also believe if you're being sensitive to our Jain brethren, then for 3-4 days, it will not impact our protein requirements and our health requirements. Although such decisions are best left for people themselves. If somebody wants to eat something, they'll definitely find a way of eating meat if somebody is a meat eater. Secondly, I want to tell my friend Sanjay that if you look at everything from the prism of politics, of minority and majority, then you're going to end up actually dividing the country on minority planks and community ranks and divisions. Mumbai exemplifies cosmopolitan diversity, but diversity exists all over India. Yes, people's issues are very, very important. Their views should be considered, but something that has been going on for a very, very long time, I believe we should be sensitive enough, and 3-4 days, I'm sure we can do without our daily dose of meat.
Right. So, Sanjay, we've run out of time almost. So, last word, should the people have a say in bans? Is there a way where we can achieve some kind of consensus in the way we approach these things, and therefore be a little more or provide more equilibrium to different communities and people from different walks of life?
No, no, absolutely, Govind. I think that's why people elect a government or they elect a political party, and as I said, that ultimately responsibility, power comes with a great deal of responsibility. And I think what the BJP government of Mr. Fadnavis should have recognized is if there is no demand really happening. I mean, nobody is saying that. If there's a request, maybe in certain sections, this has to happen through voluntary participation. Mumbai is a city that I have seen it go through the 1993. I saw it firsthand. People forget on that,
Right.
and I'm glad he doesn't said it himself.
Right. Sanjay, I think we've lost your audio. I'm unfortunately have to interrupt you there. We've run out of time as well. I think we started by asking, what are the fundamental values that are at question here, and are these actions in some ways disturbing those values that in some ways reflect what we stand for as a country? I don't know whether we found an answer, but the questions surely have been raised even more loudly than ever before. That's all we have time for on India Hangout. We'll be back soon. Thanks for watching.